Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay, the first part actually. Today I'm gonna talk about actually automating Oracle using DevOps tools. Like, as you know, all of you, DevOps has been trending for the last like 5 years. And we're gonna talk about like in general about the DevOps, what is the DevOps and why we need to use DevOps actually for our repetitive task. Who am I? I'm gonna actually be quick on this one. Founder or CEO for Guru Solution, director for Jordan Amman Oracle User Group, the first Oracle is director in the Middle East, certified different cloud provider, automation, started as a DBA and now working actually with more than one. Author for 2 books and contribution in Oracle community, published different article and the blogger on my blog. These are the 2 books, which is one related to the Oracle integration testing and the other one for the security part. What we will talk about today, I'm going to talk about the understand the DevOps for the people who probably don't have an idea what is the DevOps and how the DevOps is working. What is DevOps, why I need to use it with Oracle, for example, and when I need to use it. How the DevOps gonna make your life much easier. And I'm gonna give you, for example, like 2 different categories for the DevOps, which is one related to the Terraform and the other one related to the Ansible. And in case you have a question, you can interrupt me or drop the question actually on the chat. What is the DevOps? The DevOps actually is the automation, like it's a combination between the development and operation. And like, let's say before like certain of time, there are like the process was probably for the deployment, the development gonna go to the operation or the infrastructure team. The infrastructure team need actually like to plan for the deployment, especially if it was on the production. This deployment are probably gonna take like during the weekend. All of this actually gonna consume time. So probably this process is gonna take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and so on, because you need testing, you need a cutover, you need actually like agreement with the project manager and so on. So all of this, like from like the technical part to the management part, the DevOps actually, let's say, make it easier for the company, okay, and solve a lot of issues for the company to for this part. So it's not like about the automation, it's more about that. It's like, let's say, a practice that the company is following, because you are following, like when you are following DevOps, you are following also a concept called Agile, which we'll talk about later. And the concept of the DevOps, it's nothing new, but it has been trending actually in the last like 10 years. The DevOps concept actually, it has been created by a developer who I think was working on Google, and they create a hashtag on Twitter actually for this DevOps, and they created like as a shortcut because it's mixed between the development and the operation, so they make it as a DevOps. And this hashtag since then it has been like used very well. Okay, then after that, the DevOps actually it comes with the agile methodology and so on. When we are talking about DevOps, we are talking about development and operation. And as you see from here, the cycle, the operation, it's like responsible for the deployment, the operation, the monitor of the system, and so on. For the development, it's responsible for the coding, for the planning, for the build, and for testing. But both, for example, the development and the operation intersect in 2 different factors, which is release and plan. So if you're gonna, for example, release or deploy these things, okay, you need actually to tell the operation, to involve the operation as well. And you need to involve the development, which is a very hard part, because all of this process, as I mentioned, is gonna take time, and the plan as well. So how DevOps actually save time for you? The DevOps is divided to do like 2 different categories. Okay, so you understand what is the DevOps. There are categories for infrastructure as code, configuration management, containerization, and so on. With the infrastructure as code, we are talking about such as like tools that allow you to provision infrastructure as code as a scripting. So no need like to do the manual work anymore, like create, for example, the networking and so on. Then you have to create the server, go inside the server, and you need to install the tech stack and so on, which is going to take time. Probably like to prepare one environment, it's going to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks from you to do all of this. And imagine, for example, if you're going to like repeat this for testing, pre-production, UAT, and production as well. It's going to take a lot of time, probably 2 months. And so examples for this, for example, like infrastructure as code category, we have the most common used one, which is Terraform. Terraform, it's using, I cannot call it actually programming language. It's more than configuration language. Work with different cloud provider. For example, with AWS, with Oracle, with Microsoft, with GCP. And you have another category, which is configuration management. Configuration management, actually, the most common one used actually is Ansible, that allow you to work on-prem. For example, in case you have like on-prem like solution and you don't want to move to the cloud and so on, so you can actually automate things using Ansible. In case, for example, if you don't like to move to the cloud, there are a different one, but the most like common tool that has been used for configuration management is Ansible. I'm going to mention like later a couple of tools. There are also, for example, containerization part, which is Docker, and there are Docker Swarm, and there are Kubernetes as well, which has been trending also for the last 5 years. And a lot of company has been moving the solution for the Kubernetes because it's allowed them like to, let's say, enhance the infrastructure and enhance the application response, because you don't have to worry like about the clustering solution and so on. So all of this lead me to different things that DevOps, it's speed the deployment process for the company, eliminate, for example, or I cannot say eliminate, reduce the human error, because with how with this you are trying to eliminate the human interaction by automation, which is you done it once and no need, for example, to keep updating the configuration, which is reduce the risk of the errors and so on. Also with deployment or with the DevOps, you work with the project as a slots. You don't work with the project as a one piece of the project and that's it. So it's make it much easier also for you and for the company to track the project as well. When we are talking about the DevOps, you're gonna hear like a concept that comes with the DevOps, which is agile. With the agile, you need to understand it's not the same as the DevOps. It's more like management part of the DevOps. DevOps is related to the technical part. When we are talking about like DevOps, you are talking about like DevOps as well. I'm talking about agile. With the agile, it's management for the DevOps. It's the project plan for the DevOps. Such as, for example, Scrum Master, sprints, and so on. With the DevOps, it's focus for the communication between also like development and the operation of the infrastructure team. With the Agile, you are focused on the plan, with the thinking of this design between the teams and so on. So that's why it's both connected with each other, because with the DevOps, with the Agile, it's like cannot be completed without the DevOps, and the DevOps cannot be completed without the Agile methodology. And also like with the DevOps, as I mentioned, is focused like to speed the process. Either it's gonna be like for the deployment, for the infrastructure, for the QA, for the testing, and so on. With the Agile, it's focused to cover the gap between these two teams, which is development and the operation on the daily basis, with the task, for example, that they have been working on and so on. So all of this, it's completing each other and make the company life much easier. why I need to use like DevOps with Oracle at the first place. As a DBA, like we all know that you have like repeated tasks that you are doing them on daily basis, or probably like, for example, upgrading the databases, like also once the version gonna come. Okay, all of this, it's called like repeated task. So why I need to keep repeating the task, okay, and keep, for example, doing them, okay, and I can automate the whole process for myself, which is gonna save time, gonna save like a lot of errors, and you can reduce a huge errors for you. It's not related only like, for example, let's say to the daily task. Probably you need like to upgrade your databases. You need probably to install something. You need, for example, to install real application cluster using Ansible. All of this, okay, can allow you to automate this process, which is manual, or reduce the manual work for you. This is like a kind of couple of tools that use, for example, like automation, and they are completing each other. Terraform, it's like under infrastructure as code. Puppet and Salt stack. Ansible Chef, it's related to the configuration management. Jenkins, it's related to CI/CD. Each one of them having a different purpose. For example, what is the difference, for example, between like these tools? Terraform, for sure, it's like configuration language, which is agentless. So it's like focus on the admin job more than like the development job. With the Ansible, it's also like one of the benefits of this tools, it's agentless. So you don't have like to install like the agents and so on. And it's open source. And it's focused like on the admin like part more than the development part as well. Jenkins is CI/CD tools that allow you to automate, for example, the deployment process, and it's like a tool that, for example, all you have to do is install the plugin, integrate the tools with each other, and the pipeline actually gonna be automated. Depends on like the configuration that you are set. Puppet, it's like agent. Puppet and Chef, it's considered like agent-based solution, and it's more focused on the development, because with Chef, like it's working like to automate the process. You have actually to create a huge stack of development. It's called Cookbook and so on. And Puppet, you need also to automate like the process and create also scripts to make it work. So these tools actually, it's very advanced tools for the automation part. Salt, it can be working for agent and agentless, but it's focused more not in the development side. It focuses on the admin side, such as Ansible. Puppet, Chef, Salt is like, for example, Chef, they're having like community version, Puppet as well. So in case you need to test or something. So if you have any question, please like let me know. You can drop the question in the chat box. So let's explain, like take an example about one of the most common tools for the DevOps. Let's talk about Ansible. With the Ansible, actually, it's very simple tool that allow you to work with the configuration management. And the Ansible, it's agentless, okay? So you don't have to install agent at all, because it's working like with SSH. You need to configure SSH passwordless, and it's gonna be working. But you will hear, for example, with Ansible, a couple of concepts. You need to understand them. You're gonna hear playbook. You're gonna hear inventory. You're gonna hear, for example, like Ansible management node as well. With the playbook, it's something different. It's something very advanced, like not very advanced. It's advanced, okay, that allow you, for example, to automate things, okay, but customization, like probably you need to upgrade your databases, and because of this, like you need to write something called the playbook that allow Ansible to understand, for example, the location of your databases, what the task that you need to has been done to be upgraded. With the inventory, like imagine if you are having like more than 25 servers, okay, and these servers should like be defined somewhere. So instead, for example, of keep mentioning them, and probably like mention the 25 server, and these 25 server for databases, okay, all I have to do is enter this inventory, which is located under ATC Ansible host, and it's different file from ATC host. So you need like to undefine these servers, for example, under, for example, database server, and mention the 25. So you don't call one server at one, you call the 25 server, and instead of calling them, in case, for example, you have 10 server of the web server as well, you undefine them, for example, under web server and so on. So this is going to make your life much easier. So in case, for example, I need to deploy something on database server, okay, I only call the database server. I don't call all the server, the 25. There are also some concepts such as the agent list. So Ansible, we mentioned it's agent list, so you don't have to worry about like installing the agent. Is connected like either to the Windows or to the Linux machine or Unix machine using SSH, and with Unix, with Linux using ONCB or RDB as well. There are also facts in Ansible, which is like you can consider it as a variable that Ansible will collect, for example, from the target machine that you are targeting to run this playbook. And these also will be usable with your script when you write probably playbook, such as, for example, like you need like the target IP or the networking devices and the hardware and the hard disk and so on. So these are called the variable or fact variable. So it's called fact because it's not changeable. You cannot, for example, like change the IP of the machine, like if on the server and so on. So they call it fact. And with Ansible also, there are two levels with Ansible. The first one, it's ad hoc, which is a predefined module from Ansible that can be used. No need to write a playbook, no need to do anything or scripting, just you can use them on a spot. With the playbook, it's the advanced level of Ansible, and it's use YAM language or YAM format language, which is referred to yet another markable language. It's very easy language to learn actually. With ad hoc, for example, you can like copy, create, and create operating system, user operating system. You can execute commands using the ad hoc. With the playbook, no, as I mentioned before, probably you need to upgrade your databases. You need to install the databases. You will not find a module which is called ad hoc for this. So you need to create your own module for this. And I upload a lot of things actually on my GitHub for Ansible, predefined, for example, like installing for the database, or for example, like installing Golden Gate, upgrade, everything actually is uploaded to my GitHub. The installation, Ansible is working on different software such as Linux, Windows, or different operating system. You can install it with a simple one, either on Linux, you can use YAM, or with Ubuntu or Debian, you can use apt-get, or by adding the repo, or you can install it by using the Python package, pip, for example, or you can reinstall install Ansible using the source itself from the GitHub as well. And again, you need actually SSH passwordless, because Ansible is working, for example, on using SSH passwordless. So you don't have, for example, to reconnect or asking for the password every time. For example, this is like, as you see in the box, like a couple of ad hoc predefined module that you don't have like to create them, because Ansible, as I mentioned, it's working on-prem and the cloud version. So you're going to find ad hoc module that predefined for the Ansible, for the cloud version, and the other one that used for on-prem version. For example, you can copy from the files from the remote, from the source to the remote location. You can create EC2 instance. You can create the virtual machine on the Microsoft Azure or on OCI as well. You can also create the AMI users using Ansible on the cloud. You can SFTP things. You can create users on-prem and or on the cloud. So how to use this predefined module? Here are a couple of the examples in case like I need to reboot a couple of the machines, what I need to do. Here, if you remember, one of the part of the Ansible, it's inventory. And I mentioned in the inventory, it's like you grouping the servers under one name. instead, for example, of mention like in case you have 10 web server and you need, for example, to reboot them, the same as like question like example number 1. All you have to do, it's like Ansible. Okay, after this, you're gonna like mention the inventory that inside the inventory file, which is gonna call the server, in my case, web server, and you're gonna just run the server, run the command, which is spin root. So all the server that located in the inventory under web server, it will be rebooted. In case, for example, I need to manage file, for example, for the same web server, all I have to do like Ansible, mention the inventory, which is web server. I need to mention the command or the ad-hoc module, which is copy. And I need to mention the source of the file and then the destination as well. I can create also users with Ansible, like in case, for example, I need like to create one user for all the machine that I have inside the inventory. I create like all a group, as you see over here, the username, for example, it's called FOO passwords, and I mentioned the passwords here. So it's gonna create this user on all the machine or on all the server that I have. With a playbook, it's different version of the advanced level actually. With a playbook, you are talking about like advanced level. So you need to work with a YAML formatted file to make it work. For example, in this, it's already uploaded to my GitHub. It's about installing the Golden Gate. As you see here, it's in the YAML file. Okay, I mentioned the stages for what to do. The first one, for example, like I mentioned, it's an installation, and I mentioned the facts, which is gather facts from the target code that I will be, where I'm gonna install, and so on, instead of keep repeating them each time. I define in the inventory over here the database prod, okay, which a group for the database server production. And I'm gonna start actually after this, the process of the installation. I create over here the Golden Gate module. Over here, anything between the practice is variable. So you make your playbook more like dynamic instead of static. The owner, as you see over here, it's Oracle, and the group it's on install. After this, I need to unzip the binary. I already actually upload the binary to the server in that my case, and I uploaded using as well like Ansible as well, using Ansible predefined ad hoc. So I create over here the source. After this, the destination where it will be. Then I create who is going to be the owner of this software. And then I start actually unzip the file depending on where I need. And I use the silent installation for Oracle software. Another example, I can reinstall, for example, the databases as well using Ansible. As you, all of these example actually is uploaded to my GitHub for in case like you need to check them. As you see over here, this is like another example of installing the database. I install the database on two servers, the managed server 1 and managed server 2. I define them on the inventory. As you see over here, how I define them. I define the server 1 for this server and define the server 2, and then I define them all under one group, which is database server. The project structure or the file structure for the Ansible in this project is going to be like this. I create like the files, the response file for the installation. It's going to be under files. I create the task, which is what Ansible need to do. Okay. And the template, okay, which is JSON file, what going to be happened inside like the installation and the software only, in case I need to install the software only as well. And then the variable, which is it's going to be used such as, for example, the location of the database, the user, and so when I create them actually under one file, another file is called variable. This is like, as you see, for example like from the previous one, which is install the RDS. Anything between the brackets over here is a variable, so you don't have like to change it every time you're gonna work with the playbook. Okay, the inventory, for example, the installation for the response file or where the location of the response file, what I need to do, for example, for the option. In my case, I'm gonna just install the software only. Who's gonna be responsible, which is Oracle O install, the version of the database, the group, and so on. All of this in the response file, so I don't have like to worry about it that much. Then I'm gonna actually start like installing the scripts using like playbook and define the stages. For example, where I need to define the stages, where the database will be installed, what is the group. As you see over here from the owner, it's variable. In the Golden Gate one before, over here, it was static. So this is the power of the variable. Like you only, for example, like I can use this playbook in different location. Probably I don't need like to use Oracle as or the group for all install and so on. So this is actually allow me to change to make the Ansible playbook more dynamic. For example, over here, like you see the directory, it's dynamic. This the inventory also it's dynamic. The Oracle base is dynamic. All of this is dynamic. So I don't have like to change the script every time or the YAML file every time I need to use and install databases as well. Like you probably gonna face this error, so I choose to mention it, which is related to the Python version. This error actually it's like require a JSON module, which is not found. This is related to the Python package error. It's not installed, so you have to run actually a command either using Ansible ad-Hoc to install the Python, okay, or for example install like playbook immediately using like the RPM as you see over here installed, for example, using the RPM, and you can like try to run it again and it's gonna work. This another example also uploaded to my GitHub. For example, it's like upgrade the databases, but this have like a very advanced one because I choose to make it very simple. I choose like, as you know, with the upgrade process, you have the pre-upgrade stage and you have the upgrade and you have the final stage. So with pre-upgrade, it's do the check on the databases and the packages and so on. With the upgrade, it start running the comment that related or responsible to upgrade the databases. And the final one, it's after the upgrade, it start to check the databases and so on. Probably you're gonna find like playbook for OCI as well. Like you can work with OCI as well with Ansible, like with compute storage, with compute machines, with databases, with object storage. You can launch compute instance. You can set up autonomous databases. You can list also objects on packets. You can create them. You can delete them. There are predefined, a huge predefined module for ad hoc. Actually, you can use them instead, for example, of writing playbook for them. You can check the documentation of Ansible actually and see what predefined module I have, okay, and use them instead like of using playbook and so on. This is, for example, also an example from Oracle itself, like for launching the compute instance on OCI. It's gonna be generate SSH key for you, then it's gonna be like specific this public key actually to this machine to the compute launch, and it's gonna after this create the compute instance. All of this automatically, like with one command, which is Ansible, like mention the playbook and that's it. Or you can, for example, set up the autonomous databases transaction with Ansible as well, and there are also predefined module for this playbook, sorry, which is also, as you see over here, it's mentioned in the Oracle GitHub. So you don't have like to worry, it's like predefined. So all you have to do is take the template and change the bit in your environment that you have. So it's gonna be like creating the autonomous databases. Actually, it's gonna catch all the facts from the specific database that has been created and save them in the Ansible file. So in case you're gonna use them actually in the next time. And the Ansible itself, actually, the playbook, gonna like you can use to stop and start the databases, or you can use it to delete the databases, or you can use it, for example, to objects as well, to create in the bucket. Like there are also a playbook that gonna be delete the object or create a bucket for you in case you need to do this using Ansible. The other part or the other tools that I choose actually to give in this presentation, which is Terraform. Terraform, it's like the most used one tool actually for infrastructure as code. It's allow you to track all the changes in the infrastructure as code. It's very simple tools. Okay, it's built as I said in the configuration language. The language itself, it's very easy to learn. No need actually like extra skills, but it's like you need to know how, for example, the best practice to use like Ansible. As you see over here, I also upload like a couple of the project for the Terraform and for the Ansible on my GitHub. It's a complete project. So all you have to do is install the project and deploy to learn actually how to use the Terraform. Terraform, like working with most of the operating system, either it's Windows, Linux, like Mac or Solaris. So all you have to do is download the Terraform and start using Terraform. In case you need to have a different version of the Terraform, which is like you're gonna see it a lot, you can use another like tools called TF environment, env, or TF switch. So it's allow you to have a multiple version of Terraform, because once you're gonna build your code probably in Terraform 12, you're gonna only work with Terraform 12, and probably you're gonna find someone else build his Terraform on 13, and so on. So you need to change the versions actually from white to white to the Terraform. So you can use these tools. The Terraform command itself actually is very simple. You have Terraform init, you have apply, you have a plan, you have destroy, and you have like only these commands, and you have import as well. In case you need to import actually the stat file. The stat file, it's where the Terraform save everything that you did, okay, for the infrastructure, but in JSON formatting. But it's once, and you need to take care of this file, because once you're gonna delete it, you're gonna lose this file, and you need, for example, to add something to infrastructure later. It's gonna be hard, like, to be honest. So Terraform init, it's allow like Terraform to understand what provider, cloud provider it will use. It allow, for example, also Terraform to understand the backend of the stat file where it's going to be saved as well. The plan, it's going to give you the resource that will be created, and it's important stage because you will review actually what going to happen in Terraform. Apply auto prove. Apply, it's going to like approve and the provision everything on the cloud. Auto approve without like mentioning yes. You don't have to confirm actually the apply. Destroy, it can delete everything, but if in case like you lost the stat file and Terraform could not find the stat file, it would be very hard actually to destroy in that case, for example. So you need, that's why the importance of the state file. One of the example like why state file is very important. Destroy the same, for example, force. So it will force the dependency actually to be deleted and so on. This is like the examples of the Terraform. The Terraform having a different file. Some of the people choose to put everything in one file, which I don't prefer, to be honest. Or you can, for example, define different things, like define like different like in case you have like variable, put them inside variable to TF for Terraform, and put the main code, for example, inside main to TF. And if you have the output, for example, put it in output.tf and so on. These allow you actually, it's much easier to maintain and manage the Terraform as well. Variable, it could be like access key, secret key, the region. It's like the variable that it's changed depending on the environment. So in case, like I told you, to keep your static code, make it dynamic. So because this is the power of the DevOps and the automation, because probably you're going to use this, for example, script multiple times in multiple environments. So why I need, for example, to access to this script, change the name, for example, of the environment, change the region and so on. I make everything dynamic as well. So it's much easier for me. The output, for example, it's mentioned like it's used like for the output, such as for the IP, once like you provision the everything on the cloud. Okay, so the output gonna bring you like the IP of the machine that has been provisioned, or the name, for example, of the cluster, and so on. As you see over here, Terraform Output IP, it's going to mention, for example, for you, the IP of this machine, and so on. And how to use it, it's like by this syntax. It's very simple. For example, output, instance IP address, and the value for this one. Data source, in case you have like something already defined in the cloud, okay, or the infrastructure, and you did not use, for example, Terraform for it, and you need to retrieve this value from the cloud, you have to use data source. So you create a bucket. This bucket has been created actually not by use Terraform, so it's used by a manual way, and you need to use this bucket. So what you're going to use, you have to use data source actually to retrieve the name of the bucket in Terraform and put it in the stat file, so allow Terraform or allow you to use it in different location in Terraform. So again, the best practice, do not put everything in the main TF as well, because it's going to be very complex for you to redefine and to rework on everything actually. And in case you need to edit, no, divide it to main TF, which is the main file that you're going to call modules. And modules, it's like a script in Terraform that allow you to work, for example, and predefine the things that already using too much, such as probably the VPC in the cloud and so on. Variable, which is, as I mentioned, it's like the things that already keep it changing in the environment. Output, for example, it's like the IPs that you need to mention or retrieve for the Terraform. Or the Terraform actually TF force, it's like environment variable that you are defined inside your code. So in case like you want to use, also you can define the region over here, but it's not recommended by Terraform to use it. This is an example actually, for example, to provision like a couple of things. This is like the main TF. The main TF, it's using like the provider, as you can see, the Terraform version as well. What version I'm going to use? You can use like the resource. I'm going to create the resource security group as well. The ingress and out for this machine, and then I'm going to deploy this instance, for example, on the machine. So, and I inject, for example, over here a code inside this instance. So it will be print hello world once I'm going to finish. Over here, for example, I define the output file using the public IP as well. So it's going to bring the IP for this machine or virtual machine once it's going to be provisioned. And over here, the variable that define the ingress. So I define, for example, the server port as a variable instead of keep changing the port every time. This is all for this session. In case you have like any question, let me know. In case you need anything, also you can contact me using this is like my contact details. If we have any question, go ahead and ask, please.
Thank you, Osama, for the amazing presentation. I love it because it's the topic that I am working right now. Let me check if I have any questions here. No, not so far. May I have one question? What is the most complicated thing you find playing with playbooks?
Like complicated thing with what?
About writing the playbooks.
It's not complicated actually. Like I cannot like. Let me tell you something about this question. Like YAML file itself, it's very basic language. Okay, the hard part, I'm gonna say, it's start. To be honest, to start learning. Okay. After this, once like you're gonna start learning and you're gonna start deploy a different project by your own, you're gonna find it very easy. For example, I came from the background, okay, that pure DBA, and I never thought, for example, I'm gonna write a code or something. But for the last like 8 years or 9 years, I have been like using a different language, like such as Ansible, Terraform, and now, for example, I'm writing Python scripts as well, like for the automation and so on. So it's not like the hard part. I'm gonna say actually is start learning. It's very basic language, and there is a ton of examples online. And even like if you're gonna go to my GitHub, you're gonna find tons of examples. Actually, I upload them frequently, for example, and update them frequently on my GitHub or on my blog, actually, to allow people, for example, deploy projects. And these projects, actually, it's like a very simple project that I try to create them that happen in real case scenario project. So you're gonna find probably like code for Terraform that it's copy paste from like project that probably you're gonna find in real time, or Ansible as well. So you can, like, the hard part, to be honest, is starting. Otherwise, it's very easy.
Yeah, indeed. And also I can share a little bit about my concerns in the YAML language. We do have a lot of tools like Sublime Text or VS Code to help us. Maybe you use a different one, but it's worth to mention to help us to deploy, to write the code in a good format. For me, the worst thing about the YAML is the
indentation.
Yes, that's the nightmare. But once you are used to, it's, as you said, it's a matter of start writing and then you get to use it to the indentation.
Yes, it's like even the indentation you can use, for example, Microsoft Basic Visual Code 1, which helps you with the indentation and so on.
Good.
It's like you're gonna find a lot of tools that it's helping you actually to do this.
Yeah. And how about what do you think about using the shell module on Ansible?
Like what, for example? Define an example.
No, because the other day one guy look at my code, and as I use some part of the modules on shell script, and I use shell script to do some things that are available with modules and Ansible, especially for Oracle, as you mentioned in your presentation. We need to write our own modules for Oracle. But I was like criticized because the guy goes, "Oh, but you are using shell module. We're not supposed to use shell module." I said, "Yeah, but I am playing with Oracle.
Like,
there's
to
no
be honest, I'm using sometimes shell module, but it depends on the company policy. I work on a project that a couple of companies they reject to use a shell module. They don't want to use it. It's related either, for example, to permission or for the security reason. But you're gonna find also on my GitHub a couple of playbooks that I'm using also a shell script. So it's very, like, it's known.
Yeah, because we are used to. So why not use this shell script we are used to write in the past to help us right now?
Exactly. Yes.
Nice. So I am trying to check. I think I'm bothering too much with the questions. So just on my side, but there are no more other questions in QA or in the chat. Come on, people, don't be shy.
Well, in case, for example, anyone have a question, he can contact or she can contact me actually on these, like Twitter or blog or LinkedIn or anything.